Hi, welcome to Friday Night Chats with Garage Geek. So earlier today, it was actually just a few minutes ago, but it'll take a long time for this video to post. So for you, earlier today, I made a video of a comic book haul and I forgot to include this. It was the only Funko in the order, so this is one I've been waiting for. I actually saw it in the store and I was like, did I buy that? Did I not buy it? So I didn't pick it up and I'm so glad. So this is, of course, the Funko album cover for Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. And this is kind of fitting tonight because I'm going to do an episode of Friday Night Chats, which I think is going to be a little bit controversial. Now, let me go ahead and put this down. Now, I try to steer away from things that are too caustic in my Friday Night Chats, but I guess this is the week that is either going to make or break me, because it just seemed like everything that I watched or read had controversy all over it. And so I want to have a couple of honest chats about what I watched and what I read, and it involves politics. I like to steer away from anything political. I just don't like all the vitriol that it brings up, but we're going to talk a little bit about politics tonight. We might talk a little bit about religion, although I like to stay away from religion as a rule. And we're going to talk about a subject that is really, really near and dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about it, and I don't like to raise this subject on YouTube because it's just some people think I'm crazy when I talk about this. And so I kind of like to stay away from it, but you might see the crazy side of me tonight. If I lose followers over this, I mean, all I can say is that if you're gonna like really hate someone based on their politics, and you hate them enough that you just want them to shut up and you never want to see them again or talk to them again, I just find that kind of mind-boggling. I can disagree with someone and not hate them, but it seems like America recently is like, if you don't believe the way I believe, then you should go straight to hell, and I want to kill you, and I want to never see you again. I mean, it's like so wild like that. So I'm going out on a limb tonight, and I'm going to talk about some of my strong opinions, and we'll just see where it goes, right? And of course, I would love discussion. That's what I like. I like discussion, but I don't like where it would get to the point where people want to like hit each other over it. That doesn't make sense to me. Okay, but before we jump into that, I'm going to mention a couple things. So, Alex Ross, I'll probably do a video on this weekend. I got a bunch of videos to make, and I'm so happy because I got a 3-day weekend. I just had 3 weeks off, and now I have a 3-day weekend. Hey, teaching can suck, but sometimes it's really good. So anyways, back to Alex Ross. So I'm a huge fan of Alex Ross's art, and his Heroes, I guess, was so popular that he's doing a villains series now. And of course, that's going to bankrupt me because I will have to buy every one of those comics. And even though I'm going to be hurting, I'm going to be so happy because this stuff is like gold to me. So look forward to that video this weekend if you're a comic fan or if you just like art, because I'm going to be going through the comics, and I also have a poster book that relates to this. So that's just like a highlight. But the reason I brought this up is not to plug that video, is because I found out about those villains, that series, and so I'm very much looking forward to that. Another thing that's happening tomorrow, it actually started Thursday and it's going until Monday, is there's a record store which is about 30 minutes away. It's in the valley, and I'm closer to the city in Los Angeles, so it's called Freak Beat Records, in case any of you are in this area. And they're doing their annual sale, and it's like 50% off everything that's normally priced $10 and under, 20% off everything else, and then all dollar records, CDs, and DVDs, they're all 25 cents. And so I'm just like, yeah. Now, the one reason I don't like to go to these things is usually they're a mob scene, and so you're trying to I don't like when I have to go, through a bin and then there's people all around me. I really like when I go in a record store and I can take my time and just there's not that many people around. When people are, like, getting close to me in the store, I feel like I need to move away and come back. Um, I know that's irrational, but I don't wanna be crowded. And when you have these kind of events where, there's probably gonna be a lot of people, I'm just like, ugh. So, I don't know. I'm gonna and they don't open early either. They open at 12. So I wish they would, like, open at 10 because I know, many of the diehards would be there earlier, and then, most casual people, they won't go until, like, 12 or 1. Um but anyways, it is what it is, but I think I'm gonna try to go to this, and also, what I think is interesting for me is I usually go for the things that a lot of people don't, and so, like, if I'm going through the dollar bins, uh, and I see some of the older singers and songwriters and, from the 50s, 60s, actually, a lot of that stuff is kind of popular, but the more obscure stuff that I like orchestra and stuff like that, there might still be some of that. So I'm curious to see what it has, and I'm actually going to go. And they're requiring that people wear masks, which is, I think, a good thing. I just hope when I show up there that it's not like a huge mob, but it's going to be what it's going to be, right? Another thing is I haven't been to this music store in a long time because, like I said, it's in the valley, and in Los Angeles, like, the driving distances might be short, but the traffic is really bad, and so I usually just stay around my little area. So it'll be nice to go over in that area because it actually really is. I remember this store being in a kind of like a little neighborhood, and it was really nice. And there was a whole bunch of other shops all around it, restaurants. So it'll be nice for me to go. And then even though it's going to be a Saturday, I'll still have 2 days off to kind of make my videos. So I guess we're gonna have to jump in now. Let's get to the controversy. All right, so I basically didn't watch any movies this week, which was rare for me. I was really, I'm really trying to get back into the habit of reading physical books more, and that's time consuming. And the problem is, as soon as I start reading, I really get sleepy. And that's actually not a problem. That's a good thing because when I get into bed and I turn on the TV, you can easily fight sleep and just keep watching. But when you're reading, it becomes very hard, and that's a good thing because your body is telling you you need to go to sleep. And so even though I'm not getting very far in my book, I'm getting more sleep, and that's a positive to reading in my opinion. Even though I'm not, getting through as many movies or shows. But it shouldn't be like that's a goal, right? I need to get through as many movies and shows as I can. No. So I have been enjoying, like, kind of just slowing down and physically reading. Um, I'm reading the book that I showed you, which was Ubik by Philip K. Dick. I showed it last week, I think. I'm not even halfway through it. It's a thin volume, and I'm around the 100-page mark. But that's okay too. It's going to take me a little bit of time to get back into the rhythm of it because I've fallen out of that rhythm where I read every night. But I'm enjoying it, and it's helping my body get back into some of those natural rhythms again. Uh, but I did watch one movie, and the movie I watched was a documentary about one of my favorite singers. So one of my absolute favorite singers is, for females, is Sinead O'Connor, and for males is Chris Isaak, of modern singers. I absolutely love them both. Now, I've liked them for so long, and this documentary about Sinead O'Connor, first of all, you have to take documentaries with a grain of salt, right? The filmmakers are focused on their subject, and they're going to try to uncover the truth, but are they actually telling the whole truth, or whatever. But anyways, I remember the controversy with Sinead O'Connor ripping up the picture of the Pope. And I think I actually saw it live. I used to watch Saturday Night Live all the time. Funny story is, when I was really younger, I remember watching the episode with my older sister. We were watching the one where Devo. Devo, they were playing Whip It, and we'd never heard of them. And my sister was like, why are they wearing doggy bowls on their heads? I don't know why. I just still remember that to this day. I'm sure everyone said the same thing, but it was just really comical, right? And, to see them on Saturday Night Live. Anyways, back to Sinead O'Connor. Now, Sinead O'Connor is very outspoken, and I do believe that she does have bouts of some sort of mental illness. I don't want to be so harsh and say it's like mental illness, but I do think she does have some problems. And I don't know if, from the video, I'm sorry, the movie, it's called Nothing Compares. I think either that or Nothing Compares to You. Um, she's definitely not the most stable person. I'm going to say that. Now, did she deserve what happened to her with the political backlash? Um, I don't think so. I think that, so America is really based on the idea that people are allowed to speak their mind, and of course there are consequences for that. But she was a young woman who spoke her mind, and she actually turned out to be right about what was happening within the church. And she explained, I mean, she experienced a lot of hardship. They talked about some things that happened to her and her mother that were very church related. I am not church bashing right now. Things happened within the institution of the church that weren't right. We're not going to get into that. And I'm not church bashing, but those things happened and they were covered up. And she was pointing some of that out. And the backlash against her was absolutely horrible. Now, she was outspoken before that. She also got into trouble because she was protesting African Americans not being able to perform the way they want. And there was another controversy of I'm trying to remember the group. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The guy with the clock. What the heck? Why am I forgetting that group? Anyways, they were protesting because rap wasn't being recognized as official music form. And Sinead O'Connor was also taking part into that protest, but she went so far as to say that she didn't want the national anthem played at her concert, and it was taken the wrong way as her being anti-American. And there was just this huge backlash. So she, in that interview, like right after it, she's like, the media, you can't trust the media. The media takes something that you say, and they do, and they sensationalize it, and they blow it way out of proportion because they want to sell newspapers, or they want you to watch. And they don't take the time to really explore the issue. And then this huge controversy comes about, and it doesn't really go over what she was really protesting against. And there was this huge backlash against her in the United States because of that. Now, she was brash, right? She did try to push people's buttons. That was part of who she was. And she paid the price for it, right? Her career was just sidelined from then on. But I want to talk about what happened, especially on Saturday Night Live the next week. So Joe Pesci is an actor that I highly respect. I loved his movies. I loved the kind of actor he was. but he went on to Saturday Night Live and he said that if Sinead were in front of him, he would give her a little slap or a smack, I think he said. And people laughed, and I just thought, even at the time, I thought it was horrible. Because number one, there was a man on stage advocating violence against women, a woman who speaks her mind, right? And that I thought was such a huge problem. And I still respect Joe Pesci as an actor. I just don't know if I respect him as a person after that. And that's one, like, that's a controversial thing that I'm going to say. I just thought the misogyny, I mean, is that what America's about? You silence people who speak their mind, who want to change things that they think are wrong. Maybe she went about it the wrong way, but I thought his reaction was sickening, to be honest. And I thought that at the time. I remember thinking that. And I won't even go into stupid, what's his name, with his pants, who bought her a ticket home. I just thought that was stupid. What's his stupid name? I can't even. I hate that guy so much just because of that. I have no respect for him. What is that guy's name with his? Can't touch this. Oh, MC Hammer. I mean, sorry, no talent, hack. And the only reason I have such vitriol for him is because he jumped on the bandwagon. Oh, send her a airplane ticket home. I was like, I don't know. Maybe I should be more forgiving of MC Hammer, but I mean, I kind of forgave Joe Pesci, but it seemed like MC Hammer just didn't even have any talent, and he just did it so that he could, sell more records or whatever. I don't know. To be honest, I don't even care. Okay, so that was the idea about that video. And then when there was a lot that went on in Sinead O'Connor's life that is exposed in that documentary that I didn't know about. Like, her mother was extremely abusive. And there's a song called Troy. And, I know the lyrics. And I thought it was based on a poem. And I think it partly is. But the lyrics are actually about the abuse that she went through. Her mother kept her out in a garden for about a week or 2 weeks, and she wouldn't let her come in. And her mom's light was on, and Sinead would be begging up to the window to let her in because it was getting cold and dark. And the mom would just turn the light off. And the lyrics of the song is, you should have left the light on. You should have left the light on. And like, when I didn't know it was about that. And like, Troy is probably one of my favorite songs by Sinead O'Connor. And to realize all these years later that it's about all this abuse that she went through, it was kind of like this huge shock. So I think, like, the idea of that documentary is, in America is about expressing your opinion, right? Unless you're a strong woman, then you need to shut the hell up. Or there's going to be a backlash. I don't know if any of you out there feel that's the case, but I think that what happened to her was unjustified. And I don't know if a man had done that, I don't think it would have been the same. And honestly, I don't know if it's any better. I remember the backlash against Britney Spears and also Miley Cyrus. They both went through like these rebellious phases where they were a little bit, they were kind of like going off the deep end. And I don't think it was actually that bad. Their careers, I don't even think were even hurt that much, right? They certainly got in the news, right? But I think their careers were fine after that. And it just seems that in many ways, Sinead O'Connor suffered, but she paved the way along with many other artists, right? But she kind of paved the way for this group of more rebellious, outspoken women to be taken a little bit more seriously. Uh, if I'm way off, that's okay. This subject is very passionate for me because it's something that I lived through, and she's one of my favorites. And I think I'm running out of things to say right now because I don't have anyone to go back and forth with me and challenge me. But I think it's a worthy debate. And if you haven't seen that documentary, I really, really recommend it. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next topic, which, if you thought that was bad, this topic is even more dear to my heart. So let me go ahead and take a drink. It's just coffee. So there's I think her name is Karen J. Fowler, right? I should have looked it up. I forgot. Normally I show pictures. I just decided to forego the pictures today since I only had a few items to share. So I read the Booker nominated book called Booth, right? About the Booth family. Of course, one of the sons, went on to assassinate President Lincoln, but it was, about the whole family, and it was a very, very well written book. And then I found out that she's written some science fiction books. So I was like, you know what? I need to investigate this writer a little more. So I went ahead and I think I put a couple of her books into my library queue, and I read what they were about. And then I always do that, and I promptly forget what they're about, and that's a good thing. When they come up, I just start listening, and it's like, unless I can really, really remember, it's like with fresh ears. So I started listening to this book called We Are Completely Besides Ourselves. And this book, I'm going to talk about this book with huge spoilers. So if this is a book that you're interested in reading, right, then you shouldn't watch, the rest of this, because I'm going to spoil the whole book. Because you can't talk about it without spoiling it. Now, I knew what it was about. I totally forgot. The cover of the book shows kind of what it's about. But since I was listening to it, I wasn't looking at the book cover, right? And anyways, the image is small, so you could mistaken it. So anyway, you could make a mistake. So anyways, this is a fictional story, but based on true things that really happened. These things happened. So, the first, I would say, hour and a half of the book, it's about 9 hours. I think it was 9. No, it was about 12 hours, I think. So the first, I think, 2 hours of the book, there's a narrator, and she's talking about her family, and her family went through some trauma. There's a sister that ended up going missing, and the older brother couldn't handle it, and as soon as he could, he took off, and the youngest girl in the family is left to deal with all this fallout, and then the parents are dealing with all this fallout, and the relationship is described because the two girls, the one that is narrating the book and the girl that was missing, it was her twin, and they grew up they grew up together, so like they were like so close, and they informed, like they were twins, and so they were like so bonded, and then this girl ends up going missing. And this whole thing is described, and to be honest with you, the first 2 hours of the book, I was like bored. I was like, okay, well, there's lots of books where, people go missing, unfortunately. And it was just like, I wasn't it wasn't horrible. It was just like, okay, there was nothing that really set this book apart, but I was wrong, because then after that mark, the narrator states, and this is where I'm going to spoil it. She's like, I've purposefully not told you one important fact. And I did that because I wanted you to see my sister as a sister. Now, the sister that she grew up with as a twin was a chimpanzee. And this has actually been done. Chimpanzees were introduced into some scientific families because they wanted to study language and behavior. And so they would grow up with the children in the family, and they were raised as equals, as human beings, and they were treated equally. Now, this girl, the narrator in the story, she grew up with this chimp for 4.5 years, and she honestly believed that that was her sister. And there's some really interesting things that are brought out. For example, there's a famous study where chimpanzees will take human pictures and chimpanzee pictures and separate them. But when they come to their own image, their own picture, they will put it in the pile with the humans that they've grown up with. They won't associate them with the chimpanzees. And this is kind of what happened because the narrator of the story, she was 4.5, 5. It's like she really believed that this was her sister. They grew up with each other. They mimicked each other. They played with each other. In fact, the girl in the story, she even jumped off a table, not realizing that her sister was, way more acrobatic. And she ended up breaking an arm or something, right? Because she didn't understand that, they were different. Now, in so many ways, they both took on the characteristics of each other. And in fact, later when the girl enters school, people call her Monkey Girl because she had a simian way of holding herself, the way that she communicated, the way that she held her body. I mean, it would be natural because they were living together and they were growing together, and they were just kind of imitating and mimicking each other. Now, the book goes at length to talk about all the problems it has with raising a chimpanzee as a child, and because a chimpanzee has so much energy, and it became such a fascinating book. And initially I was led to believe that the child, which ended up to be the chimpanzee, had been kidnapped. But no, things started happening that the chimp was seen as too dangerous around children as the chimp grew. And this actually happened a lot. So the chimps were then taken away from the families, and they were put into dangerous environments, scientific labs. And this is where the book becomes heartbreaking because it's based on reality, right? These children that grew up together, even though they were cross species, they loved each other. And the parents loved the chimp child, but they had to make a choice. Like, the chimp was becoming too dangerous to be around the child. And there's more to it that happens in the book because there's some guilt going on, which is buried based on, a lie that's being told. Because of, one the chimp getting more attention than the human child, and the human child is able to communicate and lie. And it's a fascinating book, right? But what ends up happening is the chimps are taken away, and the older brother finds out that the chimp daughter was never taken to a farm. They tell the child, oh, she went to a farm and da 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 da. Well, they were put into facilities where the author takes great care to express that when a chimp is introduced into a new group of chimps, that they will almost probably beat that chimp to death, or there will be repeated rapes on those chimps. It's just It's awful because some of those chimps were thrown into like really, you know, bad environments. They were just put in, and all they'd ever known was, you know, being with humans and being loved. And they're thrown into these, first of all, they're not even with their own species anymore. And they're thrown into basically this really hostile environment where, number one, they don't even know how to act as chimpanzees. And number two, they're going to be beaten and gang raped. And there's a one scene in the book where the 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 narrator of this book has suppressed all of this, and she avoids anything to do with any talk of monkeys. And she's in college, and she's sitting in a lecture, and somehow it gets on the topic of monkeys and how if they are put into a situation that they are gang raped. And she said that a chimp was gang raped 137 times, I think it was. And like the woman starts having like a panic attack, like because she's imagining what happened to her sister. And she's just wondering, like, how could a scientist just stand around and watch a chimp being gang raped 137 times? Like, anyways, this whole book just brought up so many emotions because I'm very animal rights. You know, I'm a vegan. I you know, I don't like to eat meat because of animal cruelty. And it really shocks me how people treat animals. And this whole book just brought up all these issues, right? You bring this animal into your home, you treat it like your own child, and then you abandon it after loving it. You abandon it to be beaten to death, to be put through scientific experiments, because that happened to a bunch of the chimps. It's on record. And, you know, or, you know, to be gang raped. But it's just the whole book just like flipped all these switches in me. It was just like, it was so emotional to like listen to this book. It was so hard to like listen to this book, and like the narrator is going through all of this like trauma, like she's reliving all this trauma and she's actually trying to piece together what happened, because she kind of buried it all. She was 5 years old when the chimp sister was taken away, and she went on living her life like trying to become part of normal human society, but she was never accepted by people like in schools, or right, like people always just saw that she was different. And of course, that same process happened to the chimp as well, but you know, with much worse consequences. So this book, number one, did such a great job. Like, I was bored the first, because I thought it was some kind of like, oh, it's just another story. And then bam, it like hits you like, whoa, the whole first part of the book was intentional. You were supposed to be lulled into thinking that these were two children, normal children that loved each other and had a relationship. And then one of them suddenly ended up missing, like maybe got, you know, kidnapped. And but no, that's not what happened. And then having to deal with all the trauma. And then she buried all of what happened because she was actually partly responsible for making sure that the sister left. And the sister, the chimp, couldn't defend herself with speech. It brought up so many wonderful issues that I think the human species needs to deal with because of the way that we treat animals in this world. Even if they're, you know, no, I shouldn't even just go, let's just keep it at that, because I could talk about this for hours and I get quite preachy. So it's probably a good place to stop. If you're interested, it's a very, very thought-provoking book, based on incidents that really happened, right? There was a time when people thought that chimpanzees and monkeys could learn to speak through, like, if they could learn to communicate, and then they realized, like, hey, they don't have the same physiology. But then they were learning to sign, like, sorry, that's I don't know what I'm doing. Like, they could learn to sign. Um, but then, we did realize that when it came to the way that humans communicate, chimps come up lacking. Now, whether they have some other way of communicating, whatever, but that's kind of beside the point, right? The way that we treat animals in our care, supposedly. I mean, I don't want to go into that, because as soon as you mention any of these issues to people who love meat, they're just like, no, they see you as absolutely crazy. They won't listen to anything that you have to say. They think that you're irrational, that you're crazy. Um, I've come across this most of my adult life. Like, people do not want to hear it. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to think about where their food came from. They want that piece of meat on their plate, and they don't care what or who had to suffer to get that meat on their plate. Because of course it's not just the animals that suffer. A lot of these meat companies also hire illegal workers, and they're put through the most horrifying conditions, working conditions too. And that's also something that, even if you don't care about the animals, you should care about the humans and what they have to go through in these, meat packing plants and these slaughterhouses. So, anyways, I told you this would be some kind of controversial episode, and I've expressed a lot of opinions. I am actually, in real life, a very opinionated person. A lot of times people have to tell me to shut up, because I am always giving my opinion. Now, on YouTube, I try to limit that. It's just like something clicked this week. It's like everything I came across was like something controversial, political, or religious, or, for me, animal rights. And so I just wanted to, at least this one time, right, on this channel, like, share my thoughts. And if there's a backlash and I lose a lot of subs, it's got to be, right? Because sometimes you just got to be who you are, and say the things that are really in your heart. And these are things that I, really believe in. So I'm looking forward to hearing, or not hearing, but reading your comments. You can be honest. I love debate. I don't like when it becomes hateful, right? I don't think that I deserve for one of you to say that I'm a gigantic asshole and that I should be killed because of the way I believe. Like that, what does that solve? I'd rather have a good back and forth debate where you try to tell me your ideas and I try to tell you mine. And I think it can be very civil. And I just think the climate in the United States has gotten so awful where, people on the opposite sides of ideas, they can't talk to each other anymore. Um, I know it's been that way for a long time, but I think there needs to be some healing going on, because we've got to move forward as a nation. And I know I have viewers who aren't in the United States, quite a few of you, and I would be interested to know, what do you think? You're in another country, seeing what happens in the United States, and uh, does it seem that bad? Because if you're in the United States, it's like, it's really bad. If you come across someone who's from another political party, you're either going to get in a really bad argument where people are like yelling at you and threatening you and cutting you off and saying that they never want to speak to you again, right? Or you've got to learn to not say anything. It's that bad here in the United States. So, I'd be curious to know what you think. If you're in the United States, how do you feel? If there's something that I said that just pisses you off to the max, I would love for you to write, but very rationally, tell me why. Because I would honestly like to know. I'm just expressing some opinions that I have, and I don't mind a little bit of back and forth. So that is it for me, Garage Geek. Probably signing his YouTube death certificate. But anyways, I don't think it's that bad. It's just I saw a movie and I read a book, and they were both very like emotionally engaging, and they touched chords in me that really made me think, and I wanted to express and share that with everyone out there, just like I do every week. So again, please let me know what you think, and this is Garage Geek signing off for this week. Thank you. If you've been around for 41 minutes, then I thank you for your support.